Well, actually, we were at Sundance with Top of the Lake with Emil and Ian, and we're at some sort of after party. And Ian and Emil were standing there looking at me in a strange way, and they said, "We want to do another project with you." And I said, "Great, sure, but you know." And so they mentioned this story to me. Said, "Oh, we've heard about this story," and as soon as I heard it, it just did something to me. It just connected to me in a way that I just knew I was interested and I was going to do this. It was this instant thing. It was kind of weird. The reason why, probably because it just sounded epic, expansive, ambitious. It sounded emotional, beautiful, a miraculous story. So I just got really excited. I ran up to my lodge, looked up the story, and literally just picked up the phone and said, "Let's do this." Because it's a true story, the first thing I need to do is just walk in as much of that reality as possible. So I just said I have to go to India. And so I literally retraced Saru's steps as best I could. So I went to his village. And actually, fortunately at the time, 60 Minutes was doing an article on Saru whereby Sue, the adoptive mother, was going to go and meet the birth mother. So that actually kick-started my research trip, which was great because I got to meet the mother and I was there for this incredible moment. So I was just like a sponge. And I ended up kind of helping 60 Minutes lunge tripods, and it was just fun. It was just a great way to break the ice. If people are talking about this story, if they go up to someone and tell the story, they always start, it's the story of a 5-year-old boy, comes from a very poor village. He's out one night with his brother. He wakes up, his brother's not there. He falls asleep on a train. It's that kind of story. You never go, oh, it's the story of a guy who grew up in Hobart and then one day he remembered his past. Because it's not, he doesn't have amnesia. He remembers everything. He's not trying to piece together anything. It's just that he's lost. So I don't know, I just felt there was something mythical in this story. There was something kind of timeless. It's like a great Greek story or it's like an Odyssey of sorts. So I just thought, just keep it very simple. In a broad sense, I saw the first half of the movie, the Indian movie, as an external story, and I saw the second half as an internal story, like a yin and a yang. We were in London and we were working with some Indian actors, and he came for his screen test, which was 4.5 hours. Kirsty and I had a house, we hired a house somewhere in London, and it's like bare feet, handheld camera. We've got really great readers, other actors, and we literally just muscle into the scenes. I just wanted to see how far I could push Dev, and he won it fair and square. His performance was beyond, and so I said, okay, the next thing, mate, is we're gonna put on some weight. Then I got really excited. I go, oh my God, this is gonna be the Dev Patel we haven't seen. But it's going to be the Dev Patel we've seen because he's beautiful. You can't change his shining, his absolute warmth. So that's the thing that the story needed. We needed a soul that shined, and Dev is all of that. He's just the most adorable, likable guy. I mean, we're very good friends. Look, it was just one of those things when I was hanging out with the real Sue Briley. And Sue was talking away, and I'd spent a lot of time with her. It just dropped into me, going, "It's Nicole Kidman." I don't know why. There's something going on here. And serendipitously, as we were going off casting around the world, Kirsty and I, we had a note saying that Nicole had managed to get her hands on the script, read it, and she's very keen to talk. You know, she was really brave in these performances. So whatever we had together, or whatever happened on set, she felt obviously safe enough just to really let loose. So yeah, she's kind of wild to watch. She's kind of method and just really commits to the character, and takes a while for her to come out of it. And I found it fascinating to watch her. I love working with her. The one thing that struck me with Rooney was that the mystery of the story just just sat in her face. Like, she just has this, when she's quiet, it's loud. It's really noisy. It's like, whoa, like all the subtext is just ripping up to the surface. It's quite extraordinary. He was this boy and he was in the exercises, and I put the lens on him and I go, it just felt like that boy that I'd been feeling. And he wasn't necessarily the best actor out of everyone that was there, but it was just something about him, something that felt completely right, just lined up. And there really was no one else. Seriously, I just kept coming back to this kid. I go, this is Saru, like this is him. Just in its own right, it's just a miraculous story, but I do think there's a lot of things people can relate to in the story, like living with a regret, living with grief, living with something that you've never actually fulfilled, or having something secret that you haven't even shared with your wife or your husband. So I think this film, it touches on that part of yourself, and I suppose through Saru gives you the courage to maybe confront it.
Well, I had read the story online by coincidence a few days before Emil came to me and brought it to my attention. I already knew about it, and it was basically, it's such an incredibly moving story. It's a primal story, loss of the mother and reunification with the mother. Like at a sort of mythic level, it's amazing. But at an actual human level of this happened to this kid, it's also amazing. So I just found it really powerful and really a chance to go to some very emotional places, which is, for a writer, the most exciting thing.
When I found out there was going to be a film about my life, I was like really ecstatic. I really didn't know what to say. Everything just sort of had to, was going through my mind, from finding my mother and book rights and so on. But yeah, I was like, I just thought in my head this would be a great movie visually to show people the stages and phases of what I went through from my trials and tribulations. Meeting Garth was great. He's like, this is all first time experience for me, but his approach to the film was really good. I just thought in my head how he would do it, but I guess his experience and that he's had in this kind of world sort of gave him that extra sort of edge of understanding of how to do sort of a juxtaposing and to the movie, because there was me here in Australia and then also my memories in India as well, and how they sort of married together, and how I sort of lived my life of sort of dreaming about my past and so on. But Garth had a really good approach, and he's done a great job. We talked a lot, and on sort of Skype and on the phone and emails and so on. But yeah, he really wanted to get deep into the core of the story and try from that, try and sort of visualise it himself and get it out there on the camera. So I think that was a really good approach in regards to getting in depth with a person, so he's got maximum understanding of what he needs to do in regards to projecting this out to the world. Being the sort of script writer and me sitting next to him and telling him the story, visually as well, actually being in India was great, because of course you needed that for him to understand the feel, the scene, and I guess the smell as well, and the places that I went to too. He'd have to write that down and to, not that I know much about sort of writing screenplays, but same as same as Garth, he'd need to fill it as well. So, you know, you can get sort of the maximum out of him as well. Dev Patel playing me and Nicole Kidman playing my mum, it's like that's gold. I think you know, two well-known actors and actor and actress. I don't think, you know, there's anyone better out there that could have fitted those roles. The time that I had with Dev in Hobart, that was good too. You know, we found out a bit about each other, and Dev's sort of thoughts were, you know, I had this vision and thought how you would be when I actually meet you, Saru, and, you know, case to the point, you're exactly as I thought you were. So, oh, well, okay, well, you're exactly the same as I thought you were. Sonny was an amazing little guy to meet. He's just watching him and the scenes and reenacting sort of my path. Was just like, you know, I sort of imagined myself when I did that, and but, you know, the boy's just, I think, full of effervescence, and yeah, he's I guess you've got to pick the right person for the right role, and he fulfilled all the criteria. I was sitting on the edge. I was like, you know, my claws were digging into the leather seat because, you know, you're on the edge right through the movie. Do you know what to expect? You know what was going to happen next? Emotionally, so many dimensions as well. There was so much to think about too, but very emotional. You know, you felt, you know, the feeling as a little kid being lost in sort of that in India. Absolutely sort of havoc. You know, I had to take a bit of thought about it, as in, this is a personal story, and for a long time it wasn't a personal story to be told to anyone, let alone the world. And I had a little talk to my parents about it, and, you know, they said, yeah, you should do it. You should take the bull by the horn and move forward and tell this unique, profound story, because everyone thinks it's amazing.